right, so, hey, I'm James, right? This is, I call this my Clark Griswold talk because, first of all, I love National Lampoon's everything. Like, Christmas Vacation is the best movie ever. Don't argue with me about it. But the Clark Griswold effect is, and this is what he does in all the movies, right? He builds this thing up in his head, and then he gets into the actual, like the everyday Monday parts of like executing, and obviously he screws them up. That makes it funny for the movie, but for us in our everyday life, we fall in love with the idea of becoming something. So like my son, great example, wants to be an astronaut, what he says, right? He's 9, but he is not doing anything in the line to make himself an astronaut. And so falling in love with the grind being, I have the thing that I've fallen in love with, the thing in my head that I think that I want to do, but how do I fall in love with doing the process that's going to actually get me there? Because typically the grind is not glamorous, right? And so one of the things that I'm always talking to people about is your organic passion. What are things that when you wake up or you go to bed, like keeps you up at night, that you want to work on? You don't have to like muster up, like, oh, I gotta go into the office today and make those phone calls in my cubicle, right? Or are you just constantly, energy is just flowing out of you as you're working on things that you're organically passionate about, right? So until people find that thing, I think they're always running uphill, swimming upstream, right? Like you're never, I always relate this to the Harry Potter house quiz. Listen, we know you're a Hufflepuff, all right? Don't come at me with you want to be a Ravenclaw. I'm speaking personal reference here. It's like, man, Ravenclaws are smart, they're clever. I want to be a Ravenclaw, right? Like, so that's who I'm going to be. So when you take the house quiz, you start, wait, you'll like the end. Well, no one's surprised. No one's surprised. So you're answering the questions on the quiz like you think a Ravenclaw would so that you can get the result that you want. But if you took it honestly, you're a Hufflepuff, right? Or in my case, I'm a Gryffindor. I wanted to be the cool Ravenclaw, but I'm a goober who's gonna be a Gryffindor, right? And that's what I was even doing in my career before. I had in my head, I wanted to make money. That's all that mattered. And so I got a job that made money, and I was trying to force into that what I wanted. And it wasn't what naturally fueled me, right? And so when I finally come across board games, like 6, 7 years ago, played those, and it was one of those things where I started having ideas to make board games, and it easily and quickly became something that I couldn't control. Like I was staying up to 2, 3 in the morning working on board games, trying different things, and it made it very difficult to even go into my job during the day because I didn't love what I was doing. So one of the things I'm always, like, you have to be self-aware, you have to be honest with yourself. Like, do the things that you want to do actually line up with where you're organically passionate? Like, is those things flowing out of you already? If they're not, you might be trying to do something that's really not where you need to be. And I think what happens is when you find that thing that you are actually organic about, you just kind of come to life. It just kind of starts flowing out of you. You become happy. I am happy because of the things that I'm doing, and I work 3 times the hours that I did before, happily, because it's just what I want to do. So I've talked like these things up in the sky of like vague, right? How do we practically do that, James? Cool story, bro. How do I practically do that? So I think the biggest thing you can do is make your organic passion a side hustle. So find some little thing, even if it's a small project. Maybe it's something that you can put on a Kickstarter, maybe even the drip side of things, right? Those really, really small things. Maybe it's something you can put on Etsy. Maybe it's something that you can sell through Facebook, whatever. Do something to start generating revenue that's your side hustle, and then grow it, right? And invest in it. Invest in yourself to learn more, right? Pay for things, learn education, whatever you need in those areas, right? And then invest in, so like for me personally, I learned, my first game was Barnyard Roundup. I knew the market was not gonna be excited about a kid-friendly card game, but I knew I needed to make something that wouldn't bankrupt my family, right? And that was a small enough project that I could learn the business. And it funded, we did $17,000. We didn't make we lost money on the campaign overall, but I learned how to make a game. I learned how to get a manufacturer, and I learned how to do fulfillment around the world. So then the next campaign, Grim Forest, I was ready to go. And so you've got to find those things, ways that you can turn your side hustle that you're organically passionate about into some sort of revenue that you can start to try to snowball and build bigger, right? And so from there, it is 100% hustle. Like, if you go and survey the people in this room, and you make yourself a checklist. Who do I look as a mentor? Who do I want to emulate? Who do I respect? Go ask them, and then ask other people, and just in general survey, and you'll see one of the most common things is just the hustle that they put into their work and their brand. And you just can't replace that, right? Like, even when I'm looking for people to join my team, it's 100% based on, like, sure, this person over here might be pretty well skilled, but what does their hustle look like? This person looks like, man, they've got a lot of energy, they're working really hard. Even if they don't know as much skill-wise, I can probably help teach them or get them what they need because I know they're gonna follow through. And those are the kind of people that you surround yourself with when you're trying to build an awesome team. So if you're doing that yourself, your project, your passion, your business, it will happen. And then kind of like the last point that I always make, and this is something I had to learn from doing business, is you can do all of the right things and still lose. That's just the business world, right? There's tons of people in this room who have made phenomenal board games, who have done all the right marketing things. They've got great art, they've got a great game, they've pushed it out, and sometimes it just doesn't work. And so you can still do all the right things and fail. If you look at all the people that are really successful in business, they will tell you one of the biggest things that happened to them along the way was failure. So if you're not seeing the results that you want, you've just got to, that's where you revert back to your passion. Is this what I really want to do? Because I've just got to push through this failure and start again and push through and do it again. And sometimes it might be 7, 10, 12, 15, 20 tries before you get there. Yeah, that's it. Questions? Comments? Yeah?
What do you do if, like, there's a piece you know you're going to need, but you're bad at it?
Okay, so let's use graphic design. So I need graphic design for a part of my business, but I'm not good at it. So you need to go find people that do it the way that you want, that you would hope that your level would be in your company, and you need to contract them. You need to pay them. You need to go ahead and make those contacts and start working with them. So the next question usually is like, what if I don't have the money for that? So then that's where I'm gonna talk to people about sacrifice, and you're just gonna have to pay for it. You're gonna have to suck it up. You might not get to go on vacation for 2 years. You might not get to buy a new jacket. You might drive a 1996 Toyota Camry with 278,000 miles for 3 years because you can't afford a new car because you're spending all of your extra money on the art for your board game that all of your family thinks that you're crazy that you're doing. Or, right, like I went and got Mr. Cunnington at the time, one of the most respected artists that I could find to do Barnyard Roundup. I got really lucky that they had like this really small window for a very small project, and I did not have the money. I actually went and opened I am not recommending anyone do this. So this is not the most sound way to do this. But I went and opened up a credit card that had a $10,000 limit, and I started charging it, and I said, I'm gonna make it happen. Again, I don't recommend doing it that way. Like, save the money, sell stuff, sacrifice other things out of your budget. If you need to put a little bit of stuff on credit, that's okay. Maybe not $10,000 worth. But if there's a will, there's a way. It also puts your feet to the fire, right? By me doing that, I knew I couldn't back away. I knew I couldn't slow down because if I did, I'd kind of screwed myself over, right? So I would say reach out to people, find people that you respect, get a budget. I mean, obviously you can't go get J. Scott Campbell maybe to do your art because he's super famous and he's going to charge $50,000 a character. But you can find somebody that is within a budget that you've set for yourself to do those things. Does that answer your question?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, all right.
It's hard, because sometimes it's like a core part of your project, and you're like, I need to get this, I'm going to need a lot of this.
Right.
And I'm not necessarily going to be able to pay somebody because I'm going to need to do a lot of layout, and you're going to need to...
So the other thing that you can do there is, so if you really don't have any capital whatsoever, you can reach out to someone and share your vision, right? You can share what you want your end product to be and see if they're interested in being a business partner, right? So, but then you're giving up future money, right? So either way you're sacrificing. It's just, do you sacrifice on the front end and bet on yourself, or are you sacrificing and bringing on help? And I will tell you that bringing on help is, I wouldn't do it any other way. I went Maverick for a while, and projects are better when you have more people. I was a control freak. I tried to keep everything in exactly my vision, and 100% everything I've done since I've added people to the mix has made it better. So when you put people that you trust and you respect into positions, then the other thing is get the hell out of their way and let them do what they're good at, and stop trying to micromanage.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah.
What was the tipping point between side hustle and this is what I do now?
Great question. So the question was, when is the tipping point between side hustle and when you go full time, right? So I really followed a lot of Jamie Stegmaier's blog posts, and I think he worked his corporate job for 2 years while he was also running his game company. I was in that range, but not quite 2 years. For me, it was when Grim Forest finished, we did about $400,000 on that campaign. So it gave me enough capital for 6 months of operating, like capital, that I could say, okay, I got 6 months to quit this and then devote all of my time, right? So you need some sort of windfall. It really makes it. Otherwise, you really have to like get your bills and your debt down to a point where you can somehow have 6 months worth of operating capital. I would say 6 months is going to be kind of a benchmark. Otherwise, you're going to be, if you only say do 2 months, then you're going to get into the end of the 2 months. You're not going to have enough time to get the things moving, and then you're going to either have to make a decision to go back to work, or you're going to be really stressed out leading up to the end of that 2 months, and your projects will suffer, right? Like the more stress you put on yourself from even outside forces, will 100%, you'll be fetal position in the corner. I have never been more stressed out than I have been as an entrepreneur. And Bebo's nodding her head back there because it is one of the grossest things. It's also been one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done. So it's, yeah. That answer that question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, since we're here and it makes sense, I mean, you think Kickstarter is like a good avenue for projects like this to get that started?
So you say, is Kickstarter a good avenue for projects like this? What does like this mean?
Like this is let's say products.
Products,
where,
sure.
Where you're creating something with physical presence that's going to be through fulfillment.
Yep, absolutely. So Kickstarter is the way to get investment capital without getting on a real investment partner with liquid capital, right? But the biggest thing there is you have to sell an audience on your vision. So you can't come to Kickstarter and say, I've got this really, really cool thing, and then just throw it up there and expect people to show up out of nowhere. And even our team here at Kickstarter will be the first to tell you, you need to bring your audience to the platform. Yes, they have an audience and they have a great system, and once you get a little momentum going, they can help you kind of like put the lighter fluid to the fire. But you really do need to bring something with you. So you need to be farming those areas that your product's going to go into, whether it's board games or something else. And you need to organically engage those areas. So we have this a lot in board games where people will join a Facebook group and they'll be like, check out my Kickstarter. Man, they're like a pop-up ad, right? No one wants that. No one wants to be spammed. So you have to find a way to organically engage the areas that you want to be a part of, build some community there, and then say, by the way, I have this thing. Don't be manipulative, right? Like you can't go into it like, well, I'm gonna post 3 times a day over the next 6 weeks so that I look like I've got this thing before I tell them about my Kickstarter. No, people snuff out car salesmen, right? Like we've got a BS detector for that. So you need to want to organically engage those areas. Is your product a board game?
No, actually, I'm doing a comic.
You're doing a what?
Comic.
Oh, you're doing a comic. You know I work at Scoutbound, right? We do comics. Yeah, right. Awesome. No, and the comic area is pretty tough on Kickstarter, right? Like so, but yeah, I'm sure if you're a comic fan, you're probably engaged in some of those areas. So if you just be putting that stuff out there, talk about your narrative, try to get people to fall in love with that. Create a fan page, get people there. Try to like put stuff into that fan page, building up to the launch of the product. Oh, I'm sure you're probably doing, right? But make it a conscious effort to say, I'm gonna post in there a couple times a week, then share that content out into some of the other areas so that you can get people engaged in what you're doing and hopefully get people like be almost brand ambassadors for you, right? Like, who else is interested in my narrative that they can take out into the world and say, like, you guys should come check this out, it's actually good. That sort of thing. Cool. Any questions?
What I would worry about with something like that is getting all that money and then not being able to fulfill it, and then having 100, 500,000 angry people.
Sure, yeah.
And that's like the Kickstarter nightmare.
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
I feel like whenever you did Barnyard Roundup, that was basically done at that point, right?
Mostly, yes.
It was just the money for fulfillment.
Yeah.
Is that where you recommend being before you go to Kickstarter?
So, like, so the question was, how do you not have the big pitfall of wasting all the money, not being able to fulfill the project after you get the money, right? So the big thing there is, I looked at all the money that I spent on Barnyard Roundup up to the point of launching the campaign as sunk cost. I didn't try to recoup that money, right? I knew I could afford, in my little world, to eat that money. And so then I used the money from the Kickstarter to actually fulfill those specific games, right? And earlier when I said I lost money, I meant if you look at a P&L sheet, which you should, I sucked at those things early on, and you learn really quickly in business that you've got to be able to operate a P&L sheet. It would still show a loss up to this day, but it's almost a wash at this point, right? So you just got to make sure that you've done your homework beforehand, make sure you've checked off all of your manufacturing costs. What's it going to cost me to ship this thing? If I add this weird stretch goal thing, this adds £1 to my game, make sure that you get that quoted, right? So that's not the one before, because then you go, oh, whoopsie.
Did you get burned like that with that?
I didn't. I got burned on VAT into the EU. I didn't fully understand value-added tax for the EU and how all those countries apply it differently. In Switzerland, even though it's in the EU, doesn't operate, and their shipping costs is twice as much as everywhere else. Yeah, so there's a ton of pitfalls in trying to make a product in concept, make it on the other side of the world, ship it from the other side of the world to every country in the world. Lots of pitfalls, lots of ways to lose money. So yeah, you definitely, and you want to build a buffer into hopefully the scope of your project so that you have a little bit of extra, build that into your funding. So that way, if you fund your MOQ, your minimum order of quantity, that you've reached out to a manufacturer and said, what can I afford to make? Okay, I have to at least make 500. That you've set your funding goal at the right price, so you know that you can at least walk away not losing money and getting people their stuff.
Thank you.
Sure. It's not easy, so good luck. Anything else? Sweet. And then my last thing that I always like to close out with is, I know that sounded all very like real talk. Here comes Gary Vee with the real talk and smashing you over the head with the real talk. But you can do it. Like, nobody's stopping you. That's America, the dream, whatever, is like you can go spend every waking hour extra that you have to make something happen. And I didn't want to sit in a cube anymore. I didn't want to make phone calls to accounts and talk to them about their marketing anymore in the trucking and construction industry. I wanted to make board games. And so you can make it, you can do it. There's a lot of hurdles and it'll be hard and it's not easy and no one's gonna help you. And in fact, people will try to probably cut you down and get in your way and make it hard for you. You just have to find a way to work around those people or overcome them and put your head down, and a lot of times just be really arrogant about it. Just put your head down and like, I'm gonna do this. And they're like, yeah, you're not. And you're like, yeah, I am, and you're just gonna do it. And you have to do it. So you can do it, go do it. I wanna see your crap out there. I wanna go play your comic book. Maybe you're making a playable comic book. Hey, maybe there's an idea there. Let's go partners on that. I wanna read your comic book. Board games? I wanna play your board game. I wanna see it out there. So go do cool stuff.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for listening to me ramble. Awesome.